Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't expected to make first contact while collecting ice core samples in the Arctic Circle. The aurora borealis painted the sky in ethereal greens and purples as she reviewed the day's data in her research station, a prefabricated structure that stood lonely against the vast white expanse of the Greenland ice sheet. The first indication that something was wrong came from her seismic monitors. They detected a deep vibration, different from the usual creaking and shifting of the ice sheet. Sarah frowned at the readings, adjusting her thick-rimmed glasses as she compared them to baseline measurements. The pattern was unlike anything she'd recorded in her 3 years studying climate change impacts on Arctic ice. A flash of light through the reinforced windows caught her attention. Sarah rushed to look outside, expecting perhaps an unusual aurora formation. Instead, she witnessed what appeared to be a meteor striking the ice about 2 kilometers from her station. But meteors didn't change direction mid-fall, and they certainly didn't glow with a pulsing blue light. "Control, this is Station Alpha 7, she radioed, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm observing an unusual phenomenon. Requesting permission to investigate." The response crackled through static. "Negative, Dr. Chen. Storm system approaching your sector. Maintain position." Sarah glanced at her weather monitors. The storm was still hours away, and something in her gut told her this couldn't wait. She'd built her career on intuition backed by data, and right now, both were screaming that this was important. "Copy that, Control. We'll maintain position," she replied, already pulling on her Arctic gear. Sometimes it was better to ask forgiveness than permission. The trek across the ice was treacherous, but Sarah's experienced feet found purchase on the uncertain terrain. As she approached the impact site, the ice beneath her feet hummed with an alien resonance. The crater glowed with that same mysterious blue light, now pulsing like a heartbeat. What she found changed everything she thought she knew about life in the universe. The object wasn't a meteor. It was a vessel, roughly the size of a small yacht, its hull made of a material that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. A jagged crack ran along its side, leaking what looked like luminescent blue blood onto the ice, but most shocking was the figure half buried in the snow nearby. The alien was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin was a deep blue that matched the liquid leaking from the ship, with patterns that shifted like oil on water. It wore what appeared to be a suit of organic technology, now damaged and revealing injuries beneath. Sarah's scientific mind warred with her human compassion for only a moment before she rushed forward. The alien's eyes snapped open at her approach. 3 eyes, arranged in a triangle, each swirling with patterns like galaxies in miniature. "Please," it spoke, the word forming in her mind rather than in the air. "The water. I need the deep water." Sarah didn't hesitate. Her research station was equipped with a deep water access point for her marine biology studies. "I can help." She projected her thoughts clearly, hoping the alien would understand. "But I need to get you out of the cold first." The alien's relief flooded her mind like a warm wave. As Sarah helped the creature to its feet, supporting its weight against her side, she noticed its skin was ice cold, far colder than even the Arctic air. Whatever this being was, it was dying. The journey back to the station was arduous. The alien moved with increasing difficulty, its skin patterns growing sluggish and dim. Sarah found herself talking constantly, both out loud and in her mind, trying to keep the creature conscious. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen," she explained, breathing heavily with exertion. "I study Earth's oceans and ice caps. I'm trying to understand how our planet's climate is changing. Maybe I can understand you too." The alien's response was weak but tinged with curiosity. "Your waters, they sing with life. So much life. My world, our oceans are dying. Need to understand." They reached the station just as the storm hit, Arctic winds howling around them like hungry wolves. Sarah sealed the airlock and helped the alien to her lab, where the deep water access port waited. the creature's three eyes fixed on the dark water visible through the transparent tube. "My name," the alien projected, its thoughts growing stronger as it neared the water, "is Nixis. I am a hydrosoph from the world you would call HG 189,733 bits. We are the guardians of our world's oceans, but they are failing. Your world, your oceans, they hold the key." Sarah helped Nixis into the access tube. The moment the alien made contact with Earth's ocean water, its skin erupted in brilliant patterns of bioluminescence. The effect was beautiful and terrifying, like watching the northern lights dance beneath alien skin. This life, Nixis projected, wonder flooding their shared mental connection. So much life, so much diversity. We lost this. Our oceans, they became too perfect, too engineered. We removed the chaos that breeds adaptation. Now they're dying, and we don't know how to save them. Sarah's scientific mind raced with implications. You're saying your species advanced so far that you accidentally eliminated the very things that make an ecosystem resilient. The natural variation and adaptation. Yes. Nix's response carried profound sadness. We sought perfection. Instead, we created stagnation. But your oceans, they remember the old ways. The ways of chaos and change, and endless renewal. The alien's three eyes focused on Sarah with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Will you help us remember too?" Before Sarah could respond, her communication system crackled to life. "The supervisors believe in preserving our way of life exactly as it is. They would rather see our oceans die than admit our ancestors made a mistake." Nixes turned their three eyes to Sarah. "They will not understand what we're trying to do here." Before Sarah could respond, the lab door opened with a pressurized hiss. Archival Supervisor Kex entered like a storm front, their silvery skin reflecting the lab's lights in sharp, aggressive patterns. Unlike Nixis's fluid movements, Kex moved with rigid precision, as if every gesture had been calculated for maximum efficiency. "Hydrosoph Nixis." Kex's mental voice cut through their minds like a blade. "The Council is concerned about your methods." Their attention turned to Sarah, and she felt the weight of ancient knowledge and prejudice pressing against her consciousness. Consulting with a pre-integration species about matters of planetary engineering. This violates countless protocols. Sarah stood her ground, meeting the supervisor's gaze. "With respect, your protocols are killing your oceans. Sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected places." Kex's skin flashed with patterns that the translator couldn't or wouldn't interpret. "You presume much human. Our civilization was engineering oceans when your species was learning to make fire." And yet, Sarah countered, pulling up a holographic display of their latest results. "Your oceans are dying while ours thrive. Maybe it's time to consider that older doesn't always mean wiser." The tension in the lab could have been cut with a knife. Nixis moved slightly closer to Sarah, their skin displaying patterns of protection and solidarity. The gesture wasn't lost on Kex, whose own patterns shifted to something cold and calculating. "The Council has reviewed your preliminary findings," Kex announced. "They believe your research could be better conducted in our facilities. Nixis, you are ordered to return home. Bring all samples and data. We will analyze them properly, without primitive interference." "That would be a mistake," Nixis projected firmly. "The essence of what we're learning here can't be replicated in our sterile labs. It requires direct observation, interaction with living systems that still remember how to change." "You forget yourself, Hydrosoph." Kex's mental voice crackled with authority. "This is not a request. Your ship is being repaired as we speak. You will depart within the solar cycle." Sarah felt a surge of frustrated anger. Weeks of breakthrough research, of watching Nixis light up with discovery, of seeing genuine hope for saving their dying world. All of it about to be buried under bureaucratic arrogance and fear of change. "Show them," she whispered to Nixis, an idea forming. "Show them what we discovered yesterday." Nixis hesitated for only a moment before moving to the primary research tank. With a gesture, they activated a sophisticated scanning system salvaged from their ship. The tank's contents appeared as a complex hologram in the center of the lab, showing what looked like a dance between Earth bacteria and samples from HD 189,733 bits as oceans. This is impossible, Kex projected, their rigid patterns fracturing with shock. Our engineered organisms don't adapt. They can't. They couldn't. Nixis corrected, their patterns glowing with quiet triumph. Until they were exposed to Earth's marine bacteria. The chaos of their interactions is awakening something. Old genetic memories we thought lost forever. Sarah stepped forward, her scientist's heart racing with the thrill of discovery. Your ancestors didn't create your ocean ecosystem from nothing. They modified what was already there. The potential for adaptation, for natural evolution. It's still there, dormant in your organism's genetic code. Earth's bacteria are just helping them remember how to use it. Kex stood silent, their three eyes fixed on the hologram where life from two worlds danced together, teaching and learning, breaking and remaking the rules of what was possible. Their skin patterns shifted through a complex sequence that even Nixis seemed surprised to see. Finally, the supervisor spoke, their mental voice carrying a new undertone of uncertainty. The Council must be informed of this development, but they will demand proof. Rigorous, undeniable proof that this approach can save our oceans without compromising everything we've built. Then let us provide it, Sarah said, seizing the moment. Not by taking our research to your world, but by bringing more of your scientists here. Let them see firsthand how beautiful imperfection can be. Kex turned to leave, their patterns still churning with internal conflict. At the door, they paused. You have one planetary rotation to prepare your evidence. Make it impossible to ignore. After they left, Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Nixis's skin rippled with patterns of relief and gratitude. You humans, they projected with what Sarah had learned to recognize as their version of a smile. You never know when to back down from a challenge. Sarah grinned, already moving to prepare more samples. That's because we learned a long time ago that the best discoveries happen right at the edge of impossible. Outside the lab windows, the Arctic sun played across the ice, creating patterns as chaotic and beautiful as the microscopic dance of life in their research tanks. Two worlds, two approaches to life itself, meeting and learning from each other in ways neither side had imagined possible. And somewhere in that beautiful chaos lay the key to saving an alien ocean, if only they could help others see the perfection in imperfection. The Arctic night wrapped around the research station like a dark blanket. But inside, the labs blazed with activity. Sarah hadn't slept in 36 hours, running test after test, while Nixis processed the results through their advanced computational systems. They had to make their case watertight before the Council's delegation arrived. There's something else, Nixis projected suddenly, their skin patterns shifting to a configuration Sarah had never seen before. Something I should have told you when we first met. Sarah looked up from her microscope, noting the unusual fluctuations in her friend's bioluminescence. What is it? We're not the only ones facing this crisis. Nixis moved to the holographic display, bringing up a star map. There are others, the Vex Collective. They'd been watching your oceans too, but not to learn from them. The display zoomed in on a series of worlds marked in angry red. They believe the solution is to harvest Earth's oceans entirely, distilling them down to their essential components. They think they can recreate the process of evolution itself in a controlled environment. Sarah felt her blood run cold. That would kill everything in our oceans. The entire Earth ecosystem would collapse. Yes, Nix's patterns pulsed with shame, and it wouldn't even work. They don't understand that you can't bottle evolution. You can't control chaos and still expect it to create. A new alert flashed on their monitoring systems. Sarah's heart sank as she recognized the energy signatures, the same ones she'd recorded when Nixis crashed. But this time, There were more of them. Many more. "They're here," Nixus projected, their mental voice tight with fear. "The Vex must have intercepted my research transmissions. They know we found a way to restore ocean ecosystems naturally." The station's security systems began blaring warnings. Through the reinforced windows, Sarah could see lights descending from the cloud cover. Sleek ships with predatory lines, nothing like Nixus' organic vessel. "Dr. Chen," her radio crackled with the voice of the station's security chief. "We're tracking multiple unauthorized entries into Earth's atmosphere. They're heading straight for you." Sarah's mind raced. The station's defenses were designed to withstand Arctic storms, not alien invasion. But maybe they didn't need to fight. Maybe there was another way. "Nixus," she turned to her friend, "you said they want to recreate evolution in a controlled environment. What if we could show them why that's impossible? Not just tell them, but prove it." The alien's three eyes widened with understanding. "The deep water access port. Your monitoring systems." "Exactly." Sarah was already moving, fingers flying over control panels. "We've been recording everything. Every tiny change, every unexpected adaptation. We can show them the true complexity of Earth's oceans in real time." The first impacts shook the station as Vex ships landed on the ice outside. Sarah could hear metallic footsteps approaching, the sound unnaturally precise, like a machine trying to imitate life. "Security teams, fall back to the inner labs," she ordered through her radio. "Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage." The lab doors burst open. The Vex were humanoid, but that's where any resemblance to life ended. Their bodies were geometric perfection, all sharp angles and precise curves, making Nix's engineered biology look organic by comparison. Their movements were smooth but soulless, like watching mathematics try to walk. "Your research will be confiscated," the lead Vex announced, its voice a symphony of harmonics that seemed designed to command attention. "Your oceans will serve the greater good of galactic civilization." Sarah stepped forward, placing herself between the Vex and her research. "Before you do anything irreversible, I want to show you something. Call it a demonstration of why your plan won't work." The Vex leader paused, its crystalline surface reflecting the lab's lights in complex patterns. "Your primitive understanding is irrelevant." "Is it?" Sarah activated the holographic display, but this time she linked it to every monitoring system in the station. The air filled with data, thousands of simultaneous chemical reactions, genetic mutations, adaptations, and interactions occurring in real time in Earth's oceans. "Look at this," she insisted. "Really look. Every second, there are more interactions happening in a single drop of seawater than your computers could simulate in a year. You can't recreate this in a controlled environment, because controlled is the opposite of what makes it work." The Vex leader stepped closer to the display, its crystalline features reflecting the dance of data. "Our computational systems are far superior to." "Superior isn't the point." Sarah's frustration broke through. "Life isn't about being superior. It's about being adaptable. Every failure, every inefficiency, every mistake in our oceans is an opportunity for something new to emerge. You can't engineer that. You can't control it. You can only destroy it by trying." Nix's moved to stand beside her, their skin displaying patterns that merged perfectly with the holographic data. "She's right. Our people made the same mistake, thinking we could perfect nature. We nearly destroyed ourselves with that arrogance." The lab fell silent except for the soft hum of equipment and the continuous stream of data showing the incredible complexity of Earth's marine ecosystems. The Vex leader remained motionless, its crystalline surface slowly shifting through various configurations. Finally, it spoke. "This data, it contradicts our models." "Because your models are wrong," Sarah pressed. "You can't reduce life to equations. You can't control evolution any more than you can control the weather or the stars. But you can learn from it. You can work with it instead of trying to dominate it." Another Vex stepped forward, its voice carrying harmonics of concern. The project has already begun. Resources have been allocated. Expectations must be met. Then meet them differently. Sarah countered. Work with us. Work with Nyx's people. Together, we can find a way to restore dying oceans across the galaxy, not by controlling them, but by remembering how to let them live. The Vex leader turned to its companions, and Sarah could sense rather than hear some kind of communication passing between them. The tension in the lab grew until it felt like the air itself might shatter. Your proposal, the leader finally announced, requires further study. We will observe. Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. It wasn't a victory, not yet, but it was a start. She felt Nyx's gratitude and relief washing through their mental connection. As the Vex withdrew to their ships, leaving behind observers rather than invaders, Sarah turned to the holographic display, still showing the dance of life in Earth's oceans. In those endless patterns of chaos and creation, she saw not just the key to saving alien worlds, but a reminder of an essential truth. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let go of control and trust in the wisdom of billions of years of evolution. You know, Nyxis projected softly, their skin reflecting the data patterns. For a species that's barely mastered space travel, humans have managed to preserve something that the rest of us forgot long ago. What's that? The courage to embrace uncertainty, to see beauty in imperfection. Their three eyes met hers. Perhaps that's why the galaxy needs you more than you need us. Outside, the aurora borealis painted the sky in chaotic, beautiful patterns, nature's reminder that some things can't be controlled, only witnessed and wondered at. And in that wonder lay the seeds of salvation for oceans across the galaxy. The following days transformed the Arctic Research Station into an unprecedented gathering of three species, each viewing Earth's oceans through their own distinct lens. The Vex observers maintained their geometric precision, recording everything with crystalline sensors. Nyx's people, the Hydrosophes, arrived in increasing numbers, their skin patterns creating ever-shifting auroras inside the labs. And at the center of it all, Sarah Chen tried to bridge the gap between radically different approaches to life itself. The problem, Sarah explained to the assembled group, isn't just about restoring ocean ecosystems. It's about understanding why they need restoration in the first place. She gestured to a holographic display showing the history of Earth's oceans. Our oceans have faced multiple mass extinctions, climate changes, and catastrophic events. They survived because life here never stopped experimenting. A Vex observer stepped forward, its crystalline surface refracting lab lights in complex patterns. Inefficient, each extinction event represents billions of failed adaptations. Unacceptable waste. That's where you're wrong, Sarah countered, pulling up new data. Those failures are exactly what make the system robust. Each failed adaptation adds to the genetic library that life can draw from when conditions change again. Nyx's moved to support her argument, their skin displaying patterns of scientific excitement. Look at this, they projected, interfacing with the holographic systems. The display shifted to show real-time genetic analysis of Earth's marine bacteria. These organisms aren't just adapting. They're preserving information about previous adaptations within their DNA. It's like a living library of solutions. The gathered aliens watched as the display demonstrated how Earth bacteria could rapidly shift through different survival strategies, drawing on ancient genetic memories to solve new problems. The Vex observers vibrated with what might have been distress, while the Hydrosoph's skin patterns rippled with understanding. But their revelations were interrupted by a sudden alert from the station's atmospheric monitors. Sarah rushed to the control panel, her face paling at the readings. Something's wrong, she announced. The ocean chemistry around the station is changing rapidly. These readings, they're impossible. Nyxis joined her at the console, their three eyes widening at the data. No, they projected, patterns of alarm racing across their skin. Not impossible. Engineered. Someone is introducing synthetic organisms into your ocean. The Vex leader's crystalline surface shifted to deep red. The collective grows impatient. They have initiated Protocol Omega. What does that mean? Sarah demanded, although her gut told her she already knew. A synthetic ecosystem, the Vex explained, harmonics carrying something almost like regret. Designed to rapidly replace existing ocean life with engineered alternatives. Once released, it cannot be stopped. Sarah's mind raced with implications. If these synthetic organisms spread beyond the Arctic, they could replace Earth's entire marine ecosystem within months. Everything she'd studied, everything she'd fought to protect, would be transformed into a sterile, engineered perfection. But instead of despair, she felt a surge of determination. Nothing is unstoppable, she declared. Nature always finds a way, and so will we. She turned to Nixus. Your people's mistake was trying to engineer perfect stability. The Vex want to engineer perfect control. But what if we could engineer something different? Something that works with Earth's chaos instead of against it. Nixus's patterns shifted rapidly as they caught her meaning. A synthetic organism that promotes adaptation instead of replacing it. It's never been done. Because everyone's been trying to create order, Sarah said, already pulling up genetic sequences. We need to create something that thrives on disorder, like Earth life does naturally. The next hours were a blur of activity. Sarah worked with Nixus and even some of the Vex observers, combining their advanced biotechnology with Earth's biochemical principles. They weren't trying to create a perfect organism. They were creating an imperfect one, designed to interact with Earth's marine life in ways that would accelerate natural adaptation. It's ready, Sarah announced, holding up a vial of swirling liquid that seemed to change color as it moved. But we need to test it first. We can't risk making things worse. There is no time for testing, the Vex leader stated. The synthetic ecosystem spreads exponentially. Your ocean's natural diversity will be gone within days. Sarah looked at the vial in her hand, then at the deep water access port where they could release their creation into the ocean. Everything she knew about scientific protocol said to run more tests, to be certain of the outcome. But everything she knew about life itself told her that certainty was an illusion. Sometimes, she said, meeting the gaze of each alien in turn, you have to trust in chaos. She approached the access port, but Nixus caught her arm. Their skin displayed patterns of concern mixed with determination. Not alone, they projected. Whatever happens, we face it together. The Vex observers moved closer, their crystalline surfaces reflecting the swirling colors of the vial. We will monitor and record, their leader announced. This experiment may provide valuable data. Sarah smiled despite the gravity of the situation. Even now, faced with something that challenged their fundamental beliefs, the Vex couldn't help but try to quantify and analyze it. She released their creation into the Arctic waters. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the monitoring systems exploded with data as their imperfect organism met the collective's synthetic ecosystem. What they witnessed next would rewrite the galaxy's understanding of life itself. The interaction between their chaos-embracing creation and the collective's perfectly engineered organisms created something entirely new, a cascade of adaptation and counter-adaptation that spread through the waters like wildfire. Impossible, the Vex leader harmonized, its crystalline surface fracturing slightly in what might have been shock. The synthetic ecosystem is not being replaced. It's being transformed. Nix's patterns pulsed with joy and wonder. Not transformed, taught. Your engineered life is learning to adapt, to embrace imperfection, to become truly alive again. Sarah watched the data pouring in, showing their creation not destroying or replacing the synthetic organisms, but teaching them the dance of natural evolution. It was beautiful, messy, and utterly unpredictable, exactly as life should be. This changes everything, she whispered, feeling the weight of the moment. Not just for Earth's oceans, but for every world that's forgotten how to let life be wild. Outside, the Arctic sun broke through clouds, casting light on waters that were already beginning to pulse with new forms of life. Not perfect, not engineered, but gloriously, chaotically alive. 3 months after the release of their chaos-embracing organism, Sarah stood on the observation deck of a Hydrosoph vessel orbiting HD 189,733 bits, watching the alien world's oceans shimmer with renewed life. The once stagnant waters now pulsed with patterns of adaptation and change, visible even from space. "The Council wants to name it after you," Nixis projected, their skin displaying patterns of amusement. Chinensis Catalyst, the organism that taught engineered life how to evolve again. Sarah shook her head, still watching the planet below. "Name it after Earth's oceans instead. They're the real teachers here. We just helped everyone remember how to listen." The ship's observation deck was crowded with an unprecedented gathering. Hydrosoph scientists, their skin patterns forming complex conversations, mingled with Vex observers whose crystalline surfaces had begun showing subtle, irregular variations, the first signs that even they were learning to embrace imperfection. Human scientists from Earth's leading oceanographic institutions stood in awe of the alien world's recovery, already discussing applications for dying oceans back home. "The latest data is remarkable," a Vex analyst harmonized, its surface catching starlight in asymmetrical patterns that would have been unthinkable months ago. "The synthetic ecosystem we released on Earth has completely merged with natural systems, creating hybrid forms that demonstrate both engineered efficiency and natural adaptability. That's because we stopped trying to control the outcome," Sarah explained, turning from the viewport to address the gathered beings. "Life doesn't need us to make it perfect. It needs us to let it be itself." A holographic display activated in the center of the deck, showing real-time data from oceans across 3 worlds: Earth, HD 189,733 bits, and the first Vex world to accept the treatment. The patterns of life in each were distinctly different, yet they all shared a new vitality, a dynamic chaos that had been missing from engineered ecosystems. "The Council has reached a decision," announced a senior Hydrosoph, their skin displaying formal patterns. "Based on the success of the Earth-Hydrosoph-Vex collaboration, they are proposing the establishment of a new galactic ocean registry. Its purpose will be to preserve and restore marine ecosystems throughout known space, using principles learned from Earth's natural systems." Sarah felt Nix's pride and excitement through their now permanent mental connection. Over the months of working together, their bond had deepened into something that defied the usual boundaries between species. They were living proof that diversity, even radical diversity, could create something greater than the sum of its parts. "There's more," the Hydrosoph continued. "The Council requests that the registry be based on Earth, with Dr. Chen as its first director." A murmur went through the assembled crowd. It was unprecedented for a pre-integration species to be given such responsibility. But then, nothing about this situation had precedent. "I accept," Sarah said, "on one condition." She gestured to the viewport, where HD 189,733 bits' recovering oceans painted the observation deck in shifting blue light. "The registry's mission can't just be about preserving and restoring oceans. It has to be about preserving the right to change, to adapt, to be imperfect. Every world's oceans need to find their own path, just like every species does." The Vex leader stepped forward, its crystalline surface now permanently altered by exposure to Earth's chaotic biodiversity. "The collective agrees. We have learned that true perfection lies not in control, but in the capacity for endless variation. Look at them." Nixis projected privately to Sarah, their skin displaying patterns of wonder. 3 species who once saw the universe in completely different ways, learning to value the very chaos they once fought against. "You humans have changed everything." Sarah watched as Hydrosophs and Vex began interfacing with the holographic displays, already planning the next phase of ocean restoration across the galaxy. Earth scientists joined them, offering insights from billions of years of evolutionary history. The boundaries between organic and synthetic, engineered and natural, ordered and chaotic were blurring into something entirely new. "We didn't change anything," she responded to Nixus. "We just reminded everyone of something they'd forgotten. That life isn't about reaching some perfect end state. It's about the journey, the endless dance of trial and error, success and failure, adaptation and change." Below them, HT 189,733 Bits' oceans continued their revival, each wave carrying the promise of new possibilities. On Earth, synthetic organisms learned to evolve alongside natural ones, creating hybrid ecosystems more resilient than either could have been alone. And in the great dance of galactic civilization, humanity had found its unique role, not as the most advanced species, but as the ones who remembered what the others had forgotten in their quest for perfection. "The Council has one more announcement," the senior Hydrosoph declared. "In recognition of humanity's contribution to galactic knowledge, Earth is being offered immediate integration status. All restrictions on technological and cultural exchange are lifted, effective immediately." Sarah smiled, thinking of all the possibilities this opened up, not just for ocean science, but for every field where humanity's embrace of chaos and imperfection might help advanced civilizations remember what they'd lost. "Accepting chaos doesn't mean giving up on improvement," she addressed the gathered beings. "It means understanding that improvement comes through diversity, through trial and error, through the freedom to fail and try again. Every ocean in the galaxy has its own story to tell. We just need to learn how to listen." As if in response, the ship's sensors detected a new burst of activity in the alien ocean below. A previously unknown species had emerged from the depths, adapted from both engineered and natural ancestors. It was neither perfect nor primitive, but something beautifully, uniquely itself, just like life should be. Nixus's skin displayed patterns that matched the new life form's movements, their three eyes bright with joy. "So," they projected, "what should we teach the galaxy next?" Sarah looked at the assembled beings, former enemies turned colleagues, different species learning to see through each other's eyes, order and chaos finding balance at last. "I think," she said, "the galaxy is ready to teach itself. We just had to remind it how." The observation deck fell quiet as everyone watched the dance of life below, each being contemplating their own journey from the pursuit of perfection to the embrace of possibility. In that silence, in that shared moment of wonder, the true power of Earth's gift to the galaxy became clear, not the power to control life, but the wisdom to let it flourish in all its beautiful, chaotic glory.